The 2025 Ryder Cup did more than crown a winner. It ripped open deep cracks in golf's once protected traditions and sparked a debate that could reshape the sport forever. What should have been a respectful, high-stakes battle instead turned into what many are now calling the Ryder Cup's darkest moment, as raw competitive fire blurred into a collapse of dignity. Booing, heckling, and crude chants echoed across the course, behavior once unthinkable at an event of this elite stature, leaving even the game's most battle-tested veterans stunned. The situation crossed a dangerous line when a cup was tossed alarmingly close to Rory McIlroy's family, an incident that shocked fans, rattled players, and forced public apologies from PGA of America leadership. Legends who had remained silent for years suddenly spoke out, none more powerfully than Tom Watson, a defining voice in Ryder Cup history, who admitted he was ashamed of the crowd's behavior, a statement that resonated far beyond simple frustration and was felt across the entire game. With classic values colliding head-on with a louder, bolder era, the tournament raised an uncomfortable question. What does this mean for golf's future? And can the soul of the Ryder Cup survive its most disruptive chapter yet? Instead, what unfolded stunned even the most seasoned veterans of the game, as booing, heckling, and vulgar chants blasted through the stands, behavior once unthinkable at an event this prestigious. The line was truly crossed when a cup was thrown dangerously close to Rory McIlroy's family, a moment many believe should never exist in golf or any sport, leaving players and legends visibly shaken and forcing public apologies from PGA of America leadership. Tom Watson, a defining figure in Ryder Cup history, spoke out with clear disappointment, admitting he was ashamed of the crowd's behavior, a reaction that cut deeper than personal frustration and sent a warning signal across the entire game. As leadership came under scrutiny, the contrast between captains became impossible to ignore. Luke Donald stood miles apart from the chaos, remaining ice-cold while building a disciplined, ego-free European squad rooted in trust, preparation, and composure, turning match play into controlled artistry even in hostile conditions. Meanwhile, Keegan Bradley's American side leaned heavily on emotion and turbulence, admired for its passion but criticized for unconventional, data-driven pairings that lacked chemistry and exposed cracks under pressure. The gap between Bradley's chaos and Donald's control became glaring, yet Bradley still earned respect for openly calling out deeper cultural issues within golf. In the end, the Ryder Cup revealed two conflicting visions of the sport, one grounded in discipline and mutual respect, the other wrestling with modern noise and spectacle. While neither captain could fully shield players from the crushing expectations that defined the event, a pressure most clearly embodied by Scottie Scheffler, the world #1, who arrived as America's steady anchor but instead appeared visibly shaken, his usual icy calm disrupted by hostile energy, awkward pairings, and unsettling chemistry that left fans and fellow pros quietly concerned about his mental space. The crowd's antagonism only pushed him deeper into isolation, turning what should have been a locked-in competitive zone into a loud chamber of frustration. And this struggle wasn't just about Scheffler. It exposed a wider strain running through the entire American squad. Despite their insane talent, many players looked boxed in by team discord and the chaos spilling in from the outside, reinforcing what legends have long said about the Ryder Cup. It's not just about raw skill, it's about temperament and chemistry, two things America clearly lacked. The gap between technical ability and emotional readiness showed itself fast, creating cracks under pressure and proving once again that mental toughness is still the make-or-break factor in this brutal match play arena. Meanwhile, the European side moved like a calm, unified machine, barely touched by the noise, their shared composure and trust highlighting how psychological preparation can block out even the loudest distractions. That contrast revealed a deep fault line, not just between teams, but within them, turning the tournament into a fight for mental and emotional survival rather than a simple contest of skill. As the intensity exploded on the course, deeper cultural issues in golf came sharply into focus, with elders of the game voicing growing concern that the 2025 Ryder Cup exposed fractures not just on the leaderboard, but in the traditions that once defined the sport. Legends like Jack Nicklaus recalled an era when a quiet look or fame word could instantly calm an unruly gallery, a safeguard that now feels worn down, leaving an urgent need for stronger, enforceable rules to protect players, their families, and the game's integrity. The moment Rory McIlroy's family was nearly struck crystallized just how blurred the line has become between fan passion and safety, igniting calls for tougher crowd enforcement, clear authority to eject disruptive spectators, and penalties to stop behavior from turning dangerous. Beyond the chaos in the stands, attention also shifted to event protocols, especially around player withdrawals and health, as legends warned that without clear, consistent rules, athletes risk facing unfair media and crowd pressure during moments that demand compassion, discretion, and leadership at the highest level. This reckoning laid bare a deeper fault line in the game. So how does golf protect its polished traditions while stepping into a modern sports spectacle, where louder crowds and bigger expectations crash in from every direction? That storm of backlash raised uncomfortable questions. And yet, through all the chaos, moments of raw emotion broke through, reminders of why this tournament still hits so hard. The 2025 Ryder Cup delivered flashes of pure golf drama that cut straight through the controversy. None hit harder than Bryson DeChambeau's wild Sunday comeback. Down 5 through 7 holes against Matt Fitzpatrick, Bryson looked finished, written off, counted out. Then he flipped the script. What followed wasn't just a rally on the scoreboard. It shook the entire arena, like someone had flipped a switch. Commentators called it match-play theater, adrenaline, strategy, and sheer willpower colliding in real time. That surge sent a shockwave through the American bench and the crowd, turning a bleak afternoon into a sudden rush of belief. For a brief stretch, the old competitive fire felt fully reignited. Even fans fed up with the noise couldn't look away as pure resilience punched through the disorder. Some veterans compared it to legendary Ryder Cup swings like Medina 2012, where belief alone rewrote the outcome. Moments like that underlined the collision at the heart of modern golf. Bryson's explosive, high-voltage style screamed spectacle and edge, while Europe's calm composure and disciplined strategy remained just as powerful. Madness met mastery. Showmanship stared down control. Inside that tension, the Ryder Cup kept its magnetic pull alive, even as it exposed the growing pains facing the sport's culture, leadership, and future direction. As the dust settled, legends who had lived through decades of Ryder Cup history delivered a blunt message: this can't be brushed off. It has to be a turning point. Tom Watson's public disappointment, Jack Nicklaus's sharp warnings, and critiques from respected insiders blended into a single demand for accountability. Passion, they said, isn't the problem. The problem is the erosion of boundaries and respect, cracks now threatening the game's moral foundation. Golf has reached a crossroads. The Ryder Cup magnified issues that had been building quietly for years: louder crowds, looser limits, blurred lines of responsibility. What once felt controlled and dignified now feels unpredictable and volatile. And the question hanging over the sport is no longer whether change is coming, but whether golf can guide it without losing the soul that made moments like these matter in the first place. Legends warned that without strong leadership, golf risks losing the very identity that has always set it apart from other sports. And the concern was never about excitement or passion, but about keeping order when emotions run high. This quickly became bigger than one tournament, as serious behind-the-scenes discussions began among officials, players, and longtime figures about how far the game can stretch before it breaks. The Ryder Cup is built on intensity, but when that intensity turns hostile, the damage can no longer be ignored. Many agreed that tradition alone is no longer enough to manage modern crowds and that respect must be enforced rather than assumed, because without real consequences, poor behavior spreads and something once respected can spiral under global attention. The focus then shifted to accountability at the top, with critics questioning whether leadership acted quickly or firmly enough when boundaries were crossed, since even brief silence can feel like approval in a charged atmosphere. Insiders felt the event exposed hesitation from those in charge, moments where stronger authority could have instantly changed the tone, raising tough questions about who truly controls the Ryder Cup when emotions erupt. In the end, the 2025 Ryder Cup became a warning, showing what happens when passion outpaces structure and tradition begins to slip, as brilliance and chaos collided on the same stage. Legends agree the Ryder Cup should always be emotional and intense, that is its strength, but without clear rules, firm leadership, and shared respect, that same power can quickly turn destructive. Luke Donald's calm, steady leadership was widely praised as a model for guiding teams through pressure while protecting the game's integrity, while Keegan Bradley's blunt calls for change sparked serious debate about how golf's leadership can better enforce etiquette and safeguard players and their families. Many backed stronger authority for officials to control unruly behavior and clearer standards around player welfare and crowd interaction, and these conversations are no longer optional. The 2025 Ryder Cup became more than a competition, and what happens next will decide whether the event restores balance or drifts further into disorder. as the sport now faces real pressure to act rather than simply talk. As fans, players, and legends wait for real change, ignoring this moment would send a dangerous message that spectacle matters more than safety and respect. The stakes couldn't be higher, because once trust is broken, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. Golf has always sold itself as different, cleaner, classier, more controlled, and the 2025 Ryder Cup challenged that image in ways the sport can't afford to dismiss. For players, the scars from this Ryder Cup may linger long after the final putt dropped. Competing in that atmosphere tested more than skill. It pushed emotional endurance to the edge. Several players privately admitted the environment felt heavier than any major they'd ever played, forcing uncomfortable reflection across locker rooms on both tours. Talent alone isn't enough in match-play chaos like this. Mental safety, trust, and leadership now stand shoulder to shoulder with swing mechanics and stats fans. 2. Face a moment of self-reflection. Passion fuels the Ryder Cup, but when passion turns reckless, it poisons the experience for everyone. Legends warned that once families feel unsafe, the line has already been crossed. The energy that makes this event special must be protected, not weaponized. Supporting your side should never mean intimidating players or tipping into chaos. The balance is fragile, and 2025 showed just how quickly it can snap. The Ryder Cup will survive, but it will not emerge unchanged. The real question is whether golf chooses growth or denial. History shows the game evolves best when it listens, not when it hides behind tradition. The 2025 Ryder Cup delivered brilliance, drama, and discomfort all at once, and that collision exposed flaws that can no longer be ignored. How golf responds next will determine whether this moment becomes a forgotten warning or a lesson finally learned. It was a true reckoning for the sport's culture and its future. Legends have spoken clearly. Respect and excitement must coexist on golf's biggest stage. If this story resonated with you, hit like, subscribe to Golf Hub, and stay tuned for more untold stories, real drama, and deep dives into golf's most defining moments.